For the fourth time, the United States of America are crowned champions of the world, and for the very first time they've done it on European soil. It is finished at the Stade de Lyon in the final in victory and joy for the United States.
It is a huge win for us, for women's sports, for women. The justice comes in the next generation, never having to go through what we went through. It's equal pay across the board from here on out.
You were listening to Give and Go
with Sam Carey
and Rotas Wadera, only on Girls Soccer Network. Hello and welcome. You are listening to episode 78 of Give and Go. I'm your host, Rotas Wadera, joined by former University of Iowa captain and star, who is now balling out at IFK North Shipping, Sam Carey.
Thank you. The pronunciation on point. Love that we got the little Swedish O in there. Fantastic. And God, it's so weird when you even bring up Iowa. Obviously I loved my time at Iowa, but it feels like it was an eon ago. I cannot tell you the last time I feel like I played even in the US. And so to still think about Iowa. And I talk to Dave and my coaches all the time, and they're like, that feels like literally a lifetime ago.
Right? You've lived multiple lives since then, being in Sweden and all those experiences. We definitely are going to get into so much with that, along with U.S. Women's National Team, NWSL. We have so much to get into today. We have a special interview with Tatjana Haenni, the NWSL sporting director. So we've got a lot of great stuff for you today. As usual, our normal housekeeping items first. For all the latest and greatest from the world of women's soccer, go to www.girlsoccernetwork.com. Check us out on Instagram. I am at RowanDeTos25. And Sam, I believe you are at Sam Carey Angel.
Yep.
Is that correct? Yep. All right. So again, get in touch with us, guys. We want to hear from you. Debate with us, talk with us. Let us know, are we totally off base, or do you agree with us? Let us know. We want to get the discussion going. All right. So we start at the top. It's been the international break. I'm sure you've enjoyed the time off, but it was also a chance to watch the U.S. Women's National Team take on Brazil in two friendlies, which they actually split, surprisingly. I think it would be a surprise, but, it's rare for the United States to lose matches in general. So that's why I think it's fair to bring up the point. With this loss, the Japan loss in the She Believes Cup, are you concerned, or is this nothing to worry about?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question to ask off the bat. And it's kind of funny in my in my experience, because I don't always get to watch the national team games live just based on, my sleep schedule and normal things. So one of my favorite things to do in the morning is, before I even watch the game, I end up on Twitter somehow, and there's a whole debate about this crisis that I stormed into before I even had an opinion to watch the game. And frankly, before I even install the starting lineup of the second game. And I think there's huge points to say in that alone. Emma Hayes is building, and I think she knows that too. And let's be real, the next major tournament, we still have time. We still have plenty of pieces. And frankly, we also have pieces that are gone right now that will likely be back. Sophia Smith has potential to be back for next massive tournaments. All these other names that we know and recognize. So there's a lot of people sounding alarms, and I see it from two tiers. First of all, frankly, we're used to U.S. dominancy. We see it all the time. We have to win everything. Of course we win everything. We always win everything. Guess what? The rest of the world is good too. And I think we forget that sometimes because we're so used to focusing on us, which I get. But close games are going to happen. Good games against Brazil and Japan. Those are no smokes that we're playing. This isn't we're losing to a nation that we should 100% whip on. These are good quality games with high level players in them. And I think we forget that. On top of that, we look at the second starting lineup, and Emma Hayes herself said it. It was a youngster starting lineup. And this is no way on me, getting on that starting lineup for not being good enough. Avery Patterson's in her first ever start. We have a midfield that I think their average age was 21. There's going to be growing pains against Brazil. And that's the whole point. So that way this group is ready, and tests happen now instead of in a massive tournament. So I do not think it's time to sound the alarm. I think the people that are sounding the alarm are freaking out way too fast, and I'm concerned about y'all's mental health if this is what you're worried about.
That is a great take. Honestly, I could not agree more. I think it kind of highlights who watched the game versus who didn't, because a lot of people will not watch the game, look at the score, and be like, oh my God, what happened? And then you actually look at the lineup and then you go, oh. So for the people who didn't watch the game, you got to look at the lineup first and see who's actually in the starting 11 before you make any judgments. I do agree, and I think we need to do this at GSN. Like, take a screenshot of that lineup because it's going to be a futures lineup. Like, that's got the potential to be the starting lineup for the national team 5, 10 years down the line. Like, that could very well be the lineup. I thought it was very funny how um, everyone got this start except for Emily Sams over Emily Sonnet. Like, I was like, okay, so you we don't want total anarchy. Is that what we're going for, MAs? You still needed one person to stable the ship. Like you couldn't give Emily Sams a start. That was the one part I thought that was funny because literally everyone else got an opportunity. So that was an interesting choice. But Emily Sonnet, I mean, what more could you say about her? Just as steady and reliable as ever. So that choice made sense. So yeah, I think it was great to see Avery Patterson. I think there was that clip on social media, right, of Emma Hayes talking to her and before she came on, and that was just like a great moment, over the course of these two friendlies. So I agree completely. Brazil has looked great, and I mean the way that they scored that goal on the counter was phenomenal. One thing I will say though is Crystal Dunn has been playing back in an attacking role for PSG in the midfield, and then you ask her to once again just magically shift back and come on as a defender. And guess what side the ball came down when they were on the counter? It was Crystal Dunn's side. So I'm like, of course, like we're still doing this. And it's something that will always bother me because we've seen what Crystal Dunn can do. This is a former league MVP who carried the Spirit to a final, way back. I mean, again, it was a ways away, and she might not have the same legs, but I do believe she can still contribute in an attacking sense. So I don't know. It's one of those things for me where I hate it. I hate it. How do you feel about players getting, I guess, converted to different positions just so that they could get on the field?
It's such an interesting argument. And I think like this is where, okay, this is me on my soapbox, this is me on my rant. And listen, I'm biased. I will 100%, I'm biased. I'm a left back. I have been an outside back my entire life, basically my entire career. I started playing left back probably seriously since I was like a U12 player. And I really haven't left it since, besides the occasional shift to like a center back and a three back. I feel like there is such a stereotype that outside back is an easy position just to like scapegoat someone into. It is such like, oh yeah, of course, like, oh, you're a forward, but we don't have room for you. Just go play outside back. You'll be fine. Like, it is such a position that, like, I even saw this clip on Instagram today that it took every ounce of my being not to start rage commenting on. And I'm sorry, influencer that creates soccer content on Instagram. I'd love to even tag you and get a conversation going. But he was talking about how like colleges don't even recruit outside backs more because they're just going to put, forwards and midfielders as an outside back. So if you play outside back, that's the biggest mistake you could make in your youth career. No, absolutely not. If you're a good outside back, trust me, you'll be fine. But it's a stereotype that you can just fall into it. And I think what happened with Crystal Dunn, like, listen, she is a player. I've had a picture on her wall, like of her on my wall, once again, outside back love, like my whole life, like looking up to her and in the national team and how she plays outside back. But it's hard to, in a weekend, flip your mind. You've been at PSG in this attacking role. You're so dominant in an attacking role. Oh, now you have to go 1v1 in the flank. It's a lot harder said than done. And I think people do not give it the respect and people just assume, oh, yeah, you can just go there. You'll be fine. And I think my question is, and this is where I'm going to propose to you, Ro, who I know watches a lot of NWSL play. We're talking about outside backs. I am going to say it right now. I've watched a lot of NWSL games between last year and this year. I'm arguing that the best outside back in this league is Carrie Abello at Orlando Pride. Where is Paul, Emma? I know Crystal Dunn's a veteran player. She's a phenomenal attacking player. I love Crystal Dunn. Where is Carrie Abello's call? If that is what you're looking for, she has earned it more than anyone else in the league this year, and I think she needs her chance.
You're spitting facts, Sam. I mean, hey, it's happened before where like if you're a champion or you have success, like those players naturally do make it into the national team. Emily Sams has gotten that call, I guess, because she is younger. My hope, I mean, not hope, I hope that it is not age that is holding her back, and because she is not as young as some of these other players that are in the team. But like you said, Crystal Dunn's not that young either, so what are we doing here? So I agree completely. And I do think they're doing the same thing with Avery Patterson too, because she was a midfielder striker in Carolina. She was drafted to be that in Utah, and now we're doing it again. And it's like, I understand you want to get the most quality on the pitch, but like, what happened to the positions? Like, what happened? Like, I don't know why it became this way. I don't know if it's Jill Ellis. I don't know who started it. But yeah, man, it's so annoying. I mean, we're on the same page here, so
Well, and the
I
reason
don't
why I say
know.
it is the role of the outside back is so unique, and it has completely changed in modern football. I think we all can, acknowledge that your outside back is an attacker on the field, is someone that's going to have to contribute to the attack, create out of small spaces, be good in the width, create service opportunities. Like, yes, that is the role of an outside back. But that doesn't mean that if we've inverted the role of an outside back to an attacker, they didn't also lose their responsibilities as a defender. And I think we're seeing a lot of phenomenal attacking outside backs come out of the woodwork, which is fantastic. But there's still a responsibility to be a great 1v1 defender. As an outside back, you're isolated in the width a lot. You are going to be the sides of counterattacks a lot. And so there's a responsibility there. And I feel like we're focusing so much on can they attribute to the attack that we forget about the 1v1 defending fundamental. Once again, I'm going to talk about her, Carrie Abello. We're seeing her go all the way up for Orlando. We're seeing her contribute in the attack, create chances. But I mean, the most viral clip from the NWSL last weekend was her going from box to box, sprinting up to a breakaway and blocking a shot. That is an outside back. And I feel like we're just ignoring those roles.
Hmm. Agreed. It's all about pace and speed and recovery speed, not can you actually, and positioning. Like, positioning is the most important thing, and reading the game, anticipation skills, not just speed.
Yeah.
And I agree completely. Like, that's where we get lost. Like, what happened to wanting to be a defender? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, there has to be that pride there. Like, and I mean, look, I guess it's how the generation evolves, right? Offense is always going to get favored. So like we're talking to a defender and a goalie here, so we're always going to lean on that side of like, hey man, you gotta want it. Like there was nothing better than stopping somebody. Like that to me was like that's a better feeling than scoring. Everyone wants to score, but can you stop somebody? Like that's what it's truly about. So yeah, we're vibing here. We totally get we're totally on the
This
same
is
page.
our
And
request. Like, this is our message to Emma Hayes and the U.S. national team. Like, on behalf of Give and Go and Girls Soccer Network, give Carrie Bello a chance.
please, please, we will continue to come after you if you don't. We're gonna keep every once an episode. We're gonna keep this a running thing. Speaking of Carrie Bell, the NWSL has been great 3 to 4 weeks into the season. Obviously, by the time this episode comes out, we'll be in the middle of week 4. But it's been, I think most of what we have expected, but there have been some surprises. How do you feel about the season so far right now?
Yeah, I really want to go back to my preseason rankings and make some changes
Mhm.
a little bit. So I'm having a bit of regrets in a few spots, but that's okay. Long season to go. We still have.
Yes. Mhm.
But no, I mean, of course, I think there's different teams that are standing out for great reasons, and there's different teams that are standing out for question reasons. And so definitely, it's been interesting to find out. But Ro, what have been your big takeaways so far?
Yeah, so I think the biggest surprise to me, and I am biased a little bit, but I am very close to the situation, is Angel City. So I've been following, and I wasn't sure what to make of the game against Seattle, how it was going to go, how it was going to look. And I thought they looked absolutely phenomenal. And like the young players, Macy Hodge, who you mentioned, really giving them a big lift in midfield. Alyssa Thompson is just, we're watching her get better and better and better, not just for Angel City, but for the national team. The assist, the goal that she essentially created for Kat Macario, like what Alyssa Thompson's growth is going to be the key to this. But Riley Tiernan, who I followed for a while at Rutgers, was on, I think, an Elite Eight or Final Four team when she was a freshman, and has been one of the best players in the country, but Rutgers just wasn't able to really get to a Final Four as a team. She's scored in her debut. She was amazing. It's in her blood, right? Her sister, Madison Tiernan, was a former player at Sky Blue. So like I remember watching her older sister being like, man, this girl is intense, fun, and wants to wants to come after you really, and was always looking to attack and be aggressive. And her career unfortunately cut short due to a knee injury. And so to see her sister in the league now scoring, it would have to be a special moment. And there's a bit of a Big Ten connection there as well. I believe Rutgers, Iowa. You played against her, didn't you?
I have played against Riley Tiernan honestly more times than I can count right now. I would think by the end of my career, I think I played against her 4 or 5 times. So
Wow.
yes, I have played against Riley Tiernan quite a bit. And you're exactly right. Especially her freshman year, she hit college soccer with a bang. And that was the year that Rutgers made the Final Four. You had other incredible players that are now in the league, like Gabby Provenzano and Amir Ali, who had a stint in the NWSL as well. Like, trust me, Iowa played Rutgers twice that year, and they were pretty untouchable. I do remember both of those quite vividly. I do think there might still be a video of a pretty fun 1v1 battle between me and Riley Tiernan that I might have to try to dig up for the sake of a clip, because I think I have one or two of those. But I think the interesting thing about Riley Tiernan, and I don't know if this is a reflection on Rutgers as a school, and like how unfortunately after that freshman year they kind of weren't as dominant in the Big Ten as they once were. But she was not a player that got a contract right out of college. She was invited to Angel City camp and basically had to try out for her contract and earned her spot. But she's one of those players that she is a special player. And especially I think what I was excited for her to go pro was to see a special player be surrounded by other players like her. And I think that once a talent, that's not that Rutgers was no longer a good school, don't get me wrong, but once those star potentials left and went pro, she no longer had someone to maybe help her create as much and didn't really have someone alongside her. They have Emily Mason, who's now in Seattle, but back line and forward line pretty far apart. So I don't think she had the impact on college after her freshman year that everyone kind of thought. And I think that kind of raised a bunch of questions about her as a player. Once again, I think it's nothing on her as a player. I think it's just a lot of different factors. So to see her come to the league, I'll be honest, go to someone who doesn't get a contract right out of college, goes to camp, earns a contract starting in the first game. Like, that's a head turner right there. I mean, clearly that's faith that she did something right in preseason camp. And I think early on, we've seen what that was. We see that spark. We see that spunk that came her freshman year of college back a little bit. And as someone who, played against her then, it's really fun to see now.
Yeah, just really watching the way that she attacked the game and really went after things. It really felt like that she's ready for this, and that she's done everything that she possibly could behind the scenes in order to earn this opportunity and then capitalize on the opportunity. Like very few players can say on that first game that they're going to come in and score. Like very, very few can actually say that. So she's already solidified herself, I think, within that team. And so we'll see where Angel City ends up. I think they're in the playoffs right now. Hopefully, we can keep it there. Kristen Press is slowly working her way back in. So we'll see if she gets more and more minutes and more comfortable as time goes on. Yeah, I like Angel City's prospects this season, but one team that has had a really rough go so far in these first three games is Chicago. What have you been seeing, and is there anything they can do to try and fix this situation?
Yeah, I think Chicago is frankly hurting on two ends. And I think this is, a lot of questions about what can this organization do? I mean, first of all, of course, complete respect to Mel Swanson and her decision and whatever's going on, but I think Chicago's a bit lost without her. I think that when you have a veteran that your team has circled behind, has rallied behind, is the face of a franchise, frankly, as much as she is, not having her is waiting for the moment for someone else to step up. And I think a lot of people thought that it might be Schlegel. Of course, you have like Jameen Joseph, who had a fantastic rookie year. But I think there still needs to be more, and I think a lot of people thought I was hoping to come from Ludema maybe too, from the Brazilian national team, but it hasn't fully been seen yet on the offensive end. I mean, in 3 games, we've scored 1 goal. And I mean, it was a great transition goal from Jameis Joseph, but it wasn't exactly like a huge build-up team success. So I think we're waiting for an anchor in the attack. On top of that, though, I mean, it's fantastic to see Sam Staub back out on the field. I think that will be a huge turnaround from their first game where she wasn't on. But I think there also is a lot of, shifting there. You have both Cameron Biegalski and Justina Gaynor have started at right back. Justina Gaynor is a rookie who played as an attacking center mid all of college. Once again, Michigan State, Big Ten, played against Justina Gaynor quite a bit. So her shifting to right back is a new role for her and getting kind of thrown in the ringer a little bit. Cameron Bogowski, Big Ten, Wisconsin, played against her my freshman year. So there's a lot of similarities in these players, but I think we haven't found the right niche to really make players feel settled and dominate a field. So Chicago right now just is looking for an identity, and I think they haven't found it yet.
Yeah, this is a really great point. You did call it. You did say that they had like three healthy defenders coming into the year, so that's obviously been an issue. And yeah, I think it really does come down to the development of their attacking players because they have put a lot in to Ali Schlegel, into Jasmine Joseph, and it really is. I mean, the elephant in the room is Mallory Swanson, and kind of what is the situation there? Is it? I mean, we don't know what she kind of just stepped away, right, and didn't really say. So we're obviously seeing the difference when Swanson's not in this team. Swanson just draws more attention and makes everyone else better around her and gives those younger players the space they need to operate. Now, when those younger players do not have the space to operate and they have to create on their own, it's an entirely different ball game. And so, yeah, there's going to be some growing pains here in Chicago. And it's unfortunate because we know what Lauren Donaldson can do and we know what that organization is. And they've been, with Laura Ricketts now taking over with the Cubs, that the success that she's had with the Cubs, like she's not gonna stand for this. Like I can guarantee you she's not happy about the start of the season and she's going to be in the front office's ear. I would not be surprised saying we need to fix this and we need to fix it now. So y'all better get going. So it's gonna be fun to monitor if this situation will change. As you mentioned, long season. It's a grueling season. Depth will be tested, and Chicago will have their opportunities to pick up some points along the way. When we look at the top of the table, I think, right, that's where we kind of said our tiers were, it was Orlando, KC, Washington, and maybe Gotham in the mix. And that's kind of what we've seen so far. Orlando and Kansas City have come out and really set the standard right away.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I mean, we knew that those programs were going to be dominant just in the way that they were built, the success they had last year, the lack of turnovers in a lot of regard. It's going to be a lot to compete with those two, organizations right now. And I think people understand that. If I am going to give credit somewhere, I do give a lot of credit to San Diego. I think the Orlando San Diego game was a lot closer than people really thought it would be. And so there's a bit of solutions coming around how to figure out to slow down Orlando. But when Marta goes and chips a PK, what are you going to do? Because I've literally never seen anyone do that before. But so, no, I mean, you're going to have to slow their momentum down some way. And if we all think about it, we know that the NWSL is physical. It is, of course, great football, but it is about speed. And that is what those two teams have. So how are you going to be able to counter that? And how are you going to be able to create when you may not have that possession or you may be sitting in a low block worrying about how to slow down their front line? What happens and how can you create transition out of that? And I think that will be one of the keys to slowing down these programs.
Yeah, I don't know if like you said, San Diego looked great, but outside of that, I mean, it's just they put so much pressure on you to, and the thing is now it's more mental
Mm.
because of what you've seen them do. Now you're almost thinking about things that haven't even happened yet, and that also affects your mental even more. I'm sure most coaches are going to have sleepless nights thinking about how are we going to game plan against these guys. And KC to me, like I've mentioned, I feel like they are just slightly more well-rounded in terms of overall outfit. Orlando still heavily reliant on Marta and Banda, but they're just so good that there's really nothing that can be done. I mean, there is some defender has to come along who is as athletically big and strong and fast as Banda. Like literally, that's the only way. There has to be a defender to come along that is just of a generational talent like Banda, and then they have to come to the NWSL also. That's the only way that I like is what it
Right?
feels like right now. Right, right. Just find one. Yeah, they're out there somewhere. Because like how else? Because I certainly don't see it. It literally is like playing a low block and hoping that you counter, but you have to have the speed yourself to be able to go on the counter and do that. So, um, yeah, Orlando and KC, I think they are looking like the two teams that are going to compete for the Shield this year. So it's going to be fun to watch. I can't wait to see them go back and forth with each other. One team though that we both liked that has slightly disappointed a little bit is Utah. What have you seen from them so far?
Yeah, I think they're still working out kinks. And obviously it is literally like week 3 of the season. We're fine. We can work out kinks. It's gonna happen. You have an incredible assist from Mandy McGlynn, literally like going straight from goalkeeper in the back of the net. And then the next game, unfortunately, lose from a sloppy turnover in the back from her. And listen, those things are gonna happen all season. It's so easy to take one clip and blame it on a player when we all know that that's just one fraction or one picture of an entire 90-minute game. But I think it is going to be cleaning up details for Utah. And you have a ton of potential. You have a ton of star power, especially from the international market there. And I think just once we have time for these pieces to click, once we have time for these, a lot of these moves did happen, either in this most recent window or in August. So we're still growing. And I think that once we give them time, they'll still come around for us.
Mhm. Yeah, I think Utah's the type of team where we've seen them, they just seem to start slow and then figure it out as the season goes on. And halfway through the year, maybe towards the end of the year, is when they start to take advantage of teams that don't have as much depth because I believe the Euros are this summer. So there will be uh capped players throughout the league who are going to leave to go play, and that's when the depth gets tested, and that's when we start to see the table really get all topsy-turvy and all these results that we're like Orlando will lose to somebody and we'll be like, what, how is this possible? And it's because everyone was gone. So it really is just depth getting tested. And I think Utah will. I agree with you. I think once they start to figure it out, they're going to be scary. They're going to be scary. Yeah, I think, like we said, they have that playoff potential. It's just, can they get over the hump, really?
Speaking of
Yeah.
scary, we've had some absolute golazos early in this season, and I
Mhm.
think none better than one Seattle's Jordan Bug. I mean, I think that was the clip that went viral. I mean, absolute half volley banger from like 30, 40 yards, made it look simple. I mean, outstanding. So she has definitely been someone to keep an eye on, but that goal just had to be shouted out.
Yep. And because of that, we have some audio from NWSL Media Day that we had to share as a result because she is this bright young star and not too long, only about a minute and a half or so. But again, just to hear from her and talk to her was really cool. So here it is, guys. Enjoy.
When you first signed, could you were you expecting to play as much as you did right away? Was that kind of the expectation, or was it? Let's kind of describe what it was like.
I mean, I didn't really have any expectations going into it, but obviously playing was a goal. But I mean, Laura knew what was best for me, and I think she wasn't going to put me in when she didn't feel confident in me. So I think that helped, even mentally, like knowing that she thought I was ready. So I think just having the people around you that like believe in you like definitely helped.
And was there anyone you were starstruck by when you met them first? As that, like, I can't believe this is my teammate.
I mean, Jess Fishlock, Jordan Heinemann. I think those were the main two. Even when Jalen Howell came to our team for a few months, I think, because I was committed to FSU, so I think growing up I like watched her play, so I think that was like a full circle moment.
And do you feel like you had a welcome to the league moment as a rookie when you first came in? Was there any player specifically who gave you fits?
I mean, I think everyone. Just that first game, it's like, wow, like I'm here.
And that was Jordan Bug, star center back, starlet, whatever you want to call her, already just from talking to her, just mature beyond her years already. I mean, just the way that she sat down my question was just like, all I asked her was, did you expect to play for when you signed? And she said, no, I had no expectations at all. I just did what my coaches told me to, and I was like, "Wow, I feel dumb." I was like, she really just put me in my place. But no, it was a great answer. She just really shows just how mature she is, and learning also that she was set to go to Florida State. I mean, look, if like they're winning a natty if she goes there. That was the fact of the matter. So Florida State kind of missed out there because we're already seeing how good she is, like she would have been a freshman in college basically, and she's already doing this in the league. Yeah, so it was really cool to talk to her and really just it seems like she's very determined to become a starter for the national team one day and has that potential. So it was really cool to get to, speak with her and just super humble and confident in who she is. So I think we're on to our favorite segment though, which we're going to be doing every single episode. Sam in Sweden. Sam, how has these last few weeks been for you and any updates?
Yeah, it's been an exciting last couple of weeks. We're only 2 weeks, 2 games into our season, just because with the international break, we did have last weekend off, which was nice. We do have multiple players in our team that are in with national teams. So of course you're missing, 5 or 6 girls out of practice to go away to national camps. But for those of us who aren't in national camps, it's also a nice little time to reset, recover, focus, and, keep going in a lot of ways. So our last game was a fun one. I'm not gonna lie. It was a nice little moment. It was oof. So a little history in Sweden. I think I talked about a little preview, but Malmö FF is a club that if you know football, you know Malmö FF. And you know it because their men's dominate the Swedish league, have gone far in Champions League, are a historic program in football. So their women's side has started and just promoted into the Damallsvenskan. And so we played Malmö at their home premiere on week 2, and it was a fun one. First of all, just going down there, I mean, bluntly saying it, I think there's a variety of different financial opportunities in the Damallsvenskan when it comes to organizations about where clubs are, since, if you're tied to a men's club, you're more likely to have more of an economy versus if you're not, and those range. Well, Malmö has quite the economy. So walking into the stadium, we played on like where their men's play in that massive stadium, walking onto the pitch, pristine grass pitch, gorgeous,
Wow.
best stadium I've played in my life. Absolutely stunning. I would guess the facilities would rival any NWSL club, if not beat most of them. It
Wow.
was insane. So, to be a little like blue collar, like we had a chip on our shoulder. We knew what we were coming in, what we were going to do. And then play the game and walk away with a 2-0 win, walk out of that fancy stadium and head home. It was a nice feeling. And I think for us, it's always fun. I think Americans in the league kind of keep tabs on each other a little bit. So there is an American on Malmö who played for the Portland Thorns for the last 2 years. So marking a fellow American, Izzy Duquella, and, having those little moments of like, oh, we're, kind of like the same, but like different. It's a fun little thing to do. But yeah, walking out of there was a win, gave us a ton of confidence, and because they kind of came into the league saying they were going to win in their first year, so put a little
Oh.
put a little nail in that coffin and humbled them a little bit, hopefully, and then got another fun one this weekend against AIK. So big ones coming up. We do have our derby in 2 weeks, which is always my favorite game of the season. It's away this time, but it's only a town 30 minutes away, which is why it's our derby game and normally draws about 10,000 fans. So it'll be a fun couple weeks coming up here in Sweden. So I'm excited about it.
That is amazing. Basically, you better come correct if you're coming to the Damos Falsket. That's what it means. You cannot just walk into this league and think that you're gonna get an easy dub. It does not work that way, not against Norrköping. So how would you say your performance was? And I guess like what is the process like in terms of the game, how like what is the post game film session? Do you guys have that? Do you guys look at the game and say, this is what we did well, this is what we need to improve on?
Oh gosh, do we? Of course, of course. I think, one thing that I've taken away from college, and I think every athlete, every pro does this differently, is how you watch film on yourself and how you kind of evaluate yourself on film. I am a huge proponent of watching film. I absolutely love it. It's probably something I do more than I'm on the field, I feel like half the time. It's mental reps, it's growing while you're not putting strain on your body, frankly. But with that, I think I've also somehow gotten into some negative cycles sometime. I think if my Iowa coaches right now were hearing this, they would die laughing at that. So one of my coaches and I kind of worked out a system that worked for me. And that's I go through a game and I'm a numbers girl. I like data. So of course you know how you play after a game. But you also I like numbers to back up how I think I played. So pretty much anytime I have a mark on the ball, I do something. I tag it either with a glow or a grow. These are my two code words. And then by the end of the game, and I look at my tags, I'm able to see like my ratio. And that kind of tells me, where my game was at, how I feel about it from a data standpoint, but also like rewatching it and learning from different moments. So for me, Malmö, honestly, I'd say is probably the best game I played in my life. I felt fantastic out there. It was a great feeling, being involved in the first goal and then having a couple opportunities, big 1v1 moments, like you said, defenders selling out, tackling. It was one of those games that I absolutely love. So I think my final ratio was like 22 glows to 3 grows. So highest
Oh,
ratio I've ever had. But then for me personally, my head coach already knows this. He's my new coach this year. He's learned it very quickly. Monday morning, I will be in his office with my list of grows and my list of questions, and we will sit down and break all of them down, talk about where we could have gone better, where we could grow, where we could work on it. So I love that individual analysis and the fact that they put time in to know I'm going to come in with my own clips, but now it's my turn to pick your brain. From there, of course, there's a team aspect too. So coaches go through the game. They always have it analyzed so fast. It honestly impresses me. Like we played Malmer on Sunday, and on Monday we had a game analysis from it. And I think the biggest thing that we look for, especially like on a win, like let's be real, we walked into the locker room on Monday a little cocky, probably a little too cocky, but we were feeling good about ourselves. And film, we got humbled real quick. And it wasn't a bad thing. It was, you played good, but here's where we need to be better. And I think like focusing on that, and of course, like you acknowledge the good, we always show the goals. We always give a little cheer for the goals. But it's also about like, okay, this is where we need it. Like other teams are watching your film. So AIK, we're playing them this weekend. They watched our Malmar film. They're looking at where, Malmar could have scored on us, where we could have gone wrong. We have to fix those. We have to be able to put band-aids on those situations. We have to be able to heal those situations. So international break gave us an extra week to be able to dial in and focus on those. And we took that opportunity. So it's definitely a good post-game review. But then also once that's done, it is out of your system and you're on to the next. We cannot think about that win anymore, and we are focused on this coming week, and that's what's really fun about it.
so cool. Wow. Wow. Thank you for taking us into what it's like in the pro ranks. Like that to me is like the coolest thing ever to kind of confirm or see like, hey, this is what's going on behind the scenes and it leads to success and to watch it work out and to watch it be successful is really, really cool. So thank you so much for sharing that because I'm like, oh, I'm nerding out right now. I'm like, oh my God, I want to be in it on a film session. I want to see what's going on. Like, I wish, I wish. Alas, yeah, I'd need to be in way better shape for that. That's not gonna happen. But speaking of Sweden, since we were in Sweden, one of their, I mean, they're not a Nordic neighbor. No, they're not actually. I was about to embarrass myself. Switzerland is not close to Sweden, or
Not, it's really not. I
it's
can't
really not.
leave out there.
A dang, because I was like about to make the craziest transition. I'm like, speaking of Sweden, their rival Switzerland. I'm like, maybe they are rivals.
These
Are
are countries that start with an S and have a
S
cross on their flag. Here's Switzerland.
SW. They sound similar. That's the only thing. Okay, so after one of the worst transitions of all time, I'm gonna get into one of the Swiss greats of women's soccer, Tatjana Haenni. She's the NWSL sporting director, was the former sporting director of the Swiss League, was a former high-ranking official for both UEFA and FIFA. So she has truly seen it all. She's one of the few women who has worked in almost every single major organization in women's soccer. So I introduced her as a pioneer in the interview, and I certainly believe that. And it was a great conversation, guys. We hope you enjoy it. Here it is. We are joined by Tatjana Haenni, the NWSL sporting director, one of the pioneers of women's football. To be quite honest with you, we are so thrilled to have her with us. Tatjana, how are you doing today?
Thanks for asking. I'm good. I was traveling the last couple of days. Actually, I was in Europe, so I just came back yesterday. I'm still a little bit jet lagged, but other than that, just really good. Thank you for asking.
Of course, yeah. So now that you are starting, well, how long has it been, first off, since you've started working as the sporting director of the NWSL?
It's just something over 2 years. I started in January 2023 at the beginning of the year. And yeah, so I just finished my second year and I'm right now in my third year.
Okay, and would you be willing to tell the audience more about what specifically you do within your role and what your overall long-term vision is to make the NWSL better?
Sure, I try. So my role as a chief sporting director is helping the league and the clubs to achieve our strategic objectives, which are, of course, quite ambitious. We want to be the best league in the world. We would like to have the best players, the domestic US women's national team players, including, of course, but also the international players. And then as soon as there are competitions, which right now we have the women's national team competitions, but now soon some club World Cups or club tournaments will come up. And of course we would like to be as successful as possible there and win those competitions. So within those parameters, I think my role is help educate clubs, owners, help support clubs, owners, GMs, sporting directors on what does it mean. We, as you know, we have just had negotiations with the Players Union last year, and we have a new CBA, which means we don't have a draft anymore. So that changed many things. So how do we, recruit players? How do we scout players? How do we sign players? There's free agency now. So the whole more global way of how you do transfers and roster management is now coming into this country and into this league. So can we educate people around that? But then it also goes just to technical standards. How many coaches? What are the minimum requirements for coaches? But then also what makes, what is an elite player environment? What does a club need to have as a baseline, as minimum standards? So actually the best players would love to come and want to be here. So all of this, it's a lot, and I can't do everything, of course, but we try just to work with everybody to, elevate us as a league as a whole and make sure we have a player-centric focus, and we try to do the best we can for the players.
And you mentioned the new CBA. How do you feel about this removal of the draft? Obviously, it's what you are surely used to. It's only something we've done in America. So, what was your thought on that? Having to learn that whole process, first of all, you're part of a few NWSL drafts, and now you're not. How have you kind of managed and handled the situation? And what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so first of all, I think being from Switzerland, from Europe, and coming here to the US and work here, you have to be respectful. You have to, at least that's my approach, you have to also learn the strengths and weaknesses of anything wherever you go. And there were so many things in this country which were reasons why women's football and women's soccer is and was so successful. So it's just because you're not used to that system doesn't mean it's not good. So at the beginning, it was, for me, it was just a lot of learning and understanding and what is the American sports system and culture and what means a draft, what maybe are actually good things about the draft and what are maybe not so good things. And at the end of the day, I think it's the right thing not to have a draft in a women's game, because women's football is a global game. The US women's national team, and our clubs will play at global world championships and Olympic tournaments, and we compete with the rest of the world, which in women's football became stronger and stronger, like Spain, England, Germany, and Japan, Brazil. There's so many amazing teams out there who get better and better. And if we want to stay on top, you just have to evolve with what's happening in the world. And I think free agency, free player movement, the whole, I think the FIFA regulations on the status on players and transfer on players, we were not totally aligned with those rules. And as a league in the US, being part of US soccer, being a member of FIFA, I think it was also important that we follow all those rules, because of course, if you're a player and you're whatever, a Brazilian national team player or a Japanese or a European German national team player, and you come to our league, you have to have the same rules around your transfers and your status as a player. And I think the elimination of the draft was a little piece in that area. So we are 100% aligned with the rest of the world, which helps us attracting and retaining the best players.
And you talked about coming from Europe, and you did what you're doing now for the Swiss Women's Super League. What are some of the differences? You did mention it briefly earlier, but what are some of the challenges, things that you had to adjust to, differences for you coming in and having to do this role now as you kind of scale up? Because naturally, there's only
Yeah.
so many teams in the Swiss league.
Well, respectfully, even though it's my home country, there's nothing you can compare between the Swiss domestic league and what we have here at the National Women's Soccer League. It's day and night. This league here is, as I think, the best league in the world if you take all areas. Sporting wise, it's always hard to say as we don't, play the Chelseas or the Olympique Lyonnais or Barcelona or Wolfsburg by Munich. We don't play them in a formal competition, so it's hard to say sporting wise which is the best team or the best league. But just looking at the number of players and the quality of players, the international players we have, plus the competitiveness of the league, that every team can really beat every team at any day. If you look at at the end of the season, if you look at the ranking and you see the points between the first team and the last team, how close we are in this league is nowhere else in this world. You have the top 2, 3, 4 teams, and then there's a big gap. Whereas here you really are pretty close. So this league is amazing. The expansion process, the investment by owners, every player is a professional player, even though some of the minimum salaries, are clearly something we have to make them higher over years, make them grow. So if I compare that with Switzerland, this is just nothing we can compare. But where I think my experience in Switzerland helped, and many other things I have done before, because I really think my strength is having been in the game for so long and having had the opportunity to do so many things. It's bringing all those puzzles together, all those experiences and the know-how I gained. If you're just doing one thing, you miss out the rest of it. And I think to bring that all together really helped me for this role here. And from Switzerland, of course, it's the whole minimum standards, the coach education, what do players need to be able to perform at their best. And those are the same things as an elite player. It's the same. It's just the standard you're able to deliver is different. We may have more staff here than we had in Switzerland. We pay the players more money than we did in Switzerland. But what you need to deliver and what are the key areas around it are really the same. It was just all very, very much smaller.
It's just smaller.
As the country is much smaller, I mean,
Right.
I live now in New York. I think there's around 10 million inhabitants, and Switzerland has, I think, 9 point something. So this is a different scale.
But it speaks to, I think, the level of football in Switzerland, though. I mean, they're severely, I think, underrated based on some of the stars that have come through the federations. So I feel,
Yeah,
it's
I
certainly.
mean, similar to the men's side, I do think Switzerland is a good country for player development. As you say, for the size of the country, which is really small, we're not fully professional. I mean, of course, on the men's side, but the women's side is kind of not even semi-professional, I would say. It's trying, but it's really hard. There's not enough money in it. And considering all those challenges, we're doing really well, I think, in terms of player development. And the best players then, of course, play in other leagues and in other countries, which is really the right thing to do. So yes, I think Switzerland is doing okay when it comes to player development, but I also think we could, this is a niche, and women's football global is not developed everywhere to its best. And as a smaller country, if you do the things right and you have the expertise and the people with the expertise and the infrastructure and the investment, I really think you could do actually much better and probably be one of the top 12, 10 to 15, 16 countries globally if you do it right.
And so based on that, do you still feel like the women's game is in a good place going forward? Like if we continue on this path, that the Swiss league would be able to get to that point, or do you still think we're still a little bit away from getting to that point?
Well, I guess they have to get to a point where it's semi-professional slash professional, because otherwise, everything else around develops pretty fast. You look at country, Belgium, Denmark, they do really well. Austria had a moment they did so well. Holland is not per se the biggest country, but it does so well. There's just a global development everywhere in all countries, and you cannot wait. You cannot wait not to do it because you fall back and behind. And the moment you're behind, it's so much more difficult to catch up. And in any business you're in, you always try to be ahead of everybody else and be smarter and be quicker and do things better. And it should be the same here because women's football is a business. So you cannot not look at it and just wait.
One of the things you mentioned about getting ahead, I think the use of data and analytics is something that is becoming more and more prevalent within the game. How important is it for you in this role to use it? Do you find yourself relying on it too much? How do you maintain the balance of eye test versus using data?
Yeah, data has become obviously something which is part of our daily lives. There's no way around it. In within football, there's more and more coming. It gets more and more ambitious. There's um, player development tools, scouting tools, benchmarking of leagues, of competition. I mean, name it. Of course, the player data tracking, all about their performance metrics, how the game is played, the speed of a ball, and it's just everything is out there. And yes, we do need those data points for everything. Mostly, a big part is just to benchmark the league and compare yourself or teams. So compare yourself. How strong are you, or where are you in a global ranking? But then also within each club, which is not so much our role at the league, but every club, of course, has every individual player GPS tracking in basically every day for training, for matches. So that, of course, should help the whole injury prevention, players load and fitness level of the player. Where are they? And then there's all the data you capture around the game, which then, of course, you can also commercialize. And it's interesting for media and fans, like, all the game-specific information. So yeah, so data collection is absolutely part of the daily business. And I would think for us as a growing league, getting also more and more professional, we are actually running right now a pretty big project on what kind of data do we need to have in-house, who owns it, how can we use it, what are the conclusions we can take from there. Even, this country is so big, when we do a match schedule, and you have the teams traveling time zones and from coast to coast, and, we will try to use that data combined with the injuries and maybe the roster management. When do coaches do subs? How many subs do we do at which minute? How many small injuries do we have? We do also track injuries of players. So to be able to say, do we have a pattern if teams play coast to coast and have too many time zones, and then after that, or before the FIFA window, or after FIFA window, are there a higher number of injuries? So we are able to hopefully mitigate that in the future and avoid those injuries, or change the match schedule as a conclusion. So yes, data is a huge piece of our work.
And I'm interested to know just what metrics you put the most weight onto. What do you look at the most in terms of what is the most valuable? Because stats, everyone kind of picks and chooses and cherry picks, right? A center back could go 70 for 75 on pass completion, but half of those passes were with your other center back. So it's not really
Yeah,
telling the story. So
yeah,
I'd love to know more about
yeah.
what you think. Yeah.
Well, I don't think there's one, because you rightly pointed out there's so many, and then of course how do you interpret them and how do you analyze them, right? But to your example, by now you also then have the heat metrics. You actually see, did the ball go forward or just back to the goalkeeper and back to you and back to the goalkeeper? How many opponents were around? What's the speed of the ball? And of course, information technology nowadays is so well advanced that you're actually able to analyze that in a much better view. So you are able to say the player was under pressure or not. But I do think all those data points really at the end of the day they just give you an indicator. They are useful, you need them, but you need to be able to analyze them. You need to be able to put them in different other perspectives. There's so many other things coming into play, depending your role, which you also need to factor in. So I don't think I can say there's one single data. What I like to say is, at the end of the day, we want to be successful, and that means many things. That means having the best product on the pitch, having the highest number of fans, viewers in the stadium, and of course online, having the highest commercial deals, TV media deals, and have the fewest number of injured players. Those are the data points I'm really interested. The rest is a lot of collection of data points to influence our decisions and to make sure we do the right thing. But you need to be able to also put them always into perspective.
And one thing I have to ask is there's the league has been in the news, not always for the right reasons recently. There's been a few controversies, a few allegations of abuse. Can you speak on some of those things and how the league has responded to it over the last month or so?
Yeah, well, the last month or so, I don't even know how much I can say, but as you know, and the league has gone through difficult times, and it was actually in April 22 when our commissioner Jessica Berman came in as a new commissioner because of the things happened previously of the abuse. So there was an investigation, and everything coming out from there is actually something we take really seriously. So there have been processes in place which are pretty severe and strict. So there's background checks on people. There is safeguarding protocols and policies. There is guidelines and formal requirements on what people can do and cannot do in terms of meeting players, environments where they meet, how many people meet them. There are player safety officers at every club. There's reporting mechanisms for players and coaches and staff, anonymous if that's what they want, where they can report issues, concerns to the league, which everything will be analyzed and taken serious. So I do think the league has done a lot. And there's player surveys, there's player education, there is meetings with players every year, everybody together to educate them on what the league is offering as tools as well for them to make sure they feel protected and safe. So can you do more? Is it enough? That's really hard to say. I do feel very comfortable about the things which have been put in place. And is it 100% guarantee that no issues are coming up? No, it's not. And there are, as you referred to, we continue to have feedbacks about potential abuse or issues. And I think it's a good thing that people can report them. It's a good thing it gets analyzed and looked at. But I also can tell you, which does not make media headlines, there is quite a number of reporting issues to us which do not result in abuse or legal cases. So there's just also uncertainty. People report something when they're not feeling comfortable or safe, and they might be minor. So we can work on them before, and we can help each other whatever is needed to make sure it's looked after and these people feel safe and protected. And I think that's a good thing. So I just really, really hope no major issues are coming up. But the world is not a perfect place, and I'm pretty sure we will have to deal with the fact that there are issues, and the more we can deal with them, the earlier, the quicker, the better. Hopefully, the more we can erase them.
Okay, well, thank you so much for addressing it. Last question for you. You're a true trailblazer. You've worked at FIFA, you've worked at UEFA, now the NWSL. What is your advice to women out there who want to work in sports and ultimately hopefully down the line, get to where you are at? Because I certainly don't feel like there are enough women working in sports nowadays.
Yeah, well, thanks. I think I was just a bit lucky or at the right time, at the right place. So it could be other women colleagues of mine, players, former players, I'm sure they would have been talented enough to do it as well. I'm just lucky. But what made me lucky is probably the passion. I have a passion for women's football. That's what I want to do. My dream is to help grow, develop it, and make it as successful as possible, and make sure female players and women in football have the best opportunities and equal opportunities like anybody else. Yeah, and then what would be my advice? I think follow your dreams, live your passion, but you have to do something for it. There's enough people out there who want to do the same. So just sitting there and saying you want to work somewhere is probably not helpful. So, have you played? Have you coached? Have you volunteered? Have you done something in football? Have you the right education, which makes you a valuable candidate for a job? And once let's say, the theoretical pieces are in place and you are a valuable candidate, what's your network? Do you maintain that? Do you make sure people know that you're around? And then, yeah, maybe a bit of luck to get somewhere, a first step into a door, and just keep doing a good job and keep enjoying it.
And that was Tatjana Haenni. We got to give a quick shout out to Jen for getting us that interview because I mean, we were just kind of shocked that this happened in the first place because she is, huge. She's big and really her knowledge of the game, the use of data, which you talked about, how you guys use it, they also use it in their own way to determine how to grow the game. And also asked her about some of the controversies and things that have been going on in the league, and she did not shy away from it. I was interested to know, I sent her questions beforehand. Would she be like, no, I don't want to answer this in regards to the NWSL? No, she fully addressed it, did not run from it, and which I respect because it would have been very easy to duck it. So, really, I really enjoyed that. And, how do you feel about, I guess, kind of this state of the game and like, is there anything like what do you think could be done to improve the NWSL?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think there is a lot of, controversies, surrounding it right now. Once again, going back to my morning Twitter scroll when I catch up on the world while I was asleep, there's a whole quote from Jessica Berman that she wants the NWSL to be as big as the NFL. And a lot of people are worried that growing the league that big can cause the player dilution or talent dilution and a couple other, crazy words that once again, people love busting out without. I'm like, I feel like you and I can have comments. You and I can have opinions. We watch the game. We're heavily invested. We analyze teams. We love football. A lot of these people that love to have comments don't have that same credibility, so I don't really get to warrant their opinion.
Hmm.
I'm a little sassy today. Anyway,
Talk, talk.
but going along with that, I think there is something that we can really continue to grow the NWSL. And if you look at, like, let's just be dramatic here, women's sports as a whole, not only in the US, but on a worldwide scale, we are in a massive pivotal point. I think we all can see that this is the highest we've ever been, but we have not reached a ceiling. I truly don't believe it. And there's a lot of, I can go into way too much of my college degree to go into all of the, socioeconomic and socio-behavioral ideas and ideologies that prevent women's sports from continuing to grow. But I think we are taking things from a step-by-step basis, but it comes from a lot of times media and people taking a chance on the game and, viewing the game and selling the stories in women's sports. And I think one thing that the NWSL, I would say, does better than any other league in this world is its marketing, is its ability to share a message, is its ability to get it in front of people. And I think we're seeing the pure result of it. We got boards in Times Square. I feel like every other social media post is an NWSL player with a flashy move or a story about them, or we're getting buy-in. We're getting the NWSL in front of viewers. And I think that the NWSL can continue to do that on high levels. And I think the rest of the world can start doing it in their own leagues. Speaking of Sweden, I think one thing that Sweden can 100% improve on is their marketing and is their social media presence and is their ability to access games. I think that is probably our biggest flaw. I know the NWSL came out with NWSL Plus. It was a whole thing, but if I can't watch a game till 2, 3 days later because it was streaming on Amazon or it was streaming on CBS, I already know the result. I don't really want to tune in live and watch it.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
I have to have an Amazon Plus subscription, plus an ESPN Plus subscription, plus maybe watch it on CBS. But if I watch it on CBS, that means it won't be on Paramount Plus. Like, there is a lot of barriers to access still. So if we truly want to grow the game, we have to find the best way to eliminate these barriers to access to get all people to enjoy.
That's such a great point because yeah, it truly is on like every single possible platform. Like literally like you have to go double and triple check like what channel is this on and what time is that because sometimes you're like, "Oh, I think it's on ESPN today." Nope. It's on Amazon Prime today. Nope. Oh, it's NWSL Plus today. And then I'm like, this is a great game. Why is this the game that's on NWSL Plus and not the televised one? And like the decisions that are made behind all that. Yeah. So I agree completely. Like the access to the game is something that we are so passionate about too, and that's why we're doing this to give and get at least some look into what it is like in Sweden because I agree Sweden and Germany I think are two of like the worst in terms of like this I wouldn't say it's like this ethnocentric or egocentric to where it's we want to keep things within our realm of the world. We don't want to share it with everyone. And so which is weird to say. And it's a weird mindset, but that's the differences in our cultures and who we are as people. So that's an entirely different topic. But
But the interesting thing is, like, I totally agree with everything you just said. But if we look at the foundation of football, especially in European countries, like, this is where the US is going wrong. If we want to talk about, is the US women's national team having issues? Like, no. Is it this? I know there's a lot of conversation about the men's national team and the World Cup, which is a whole nother thing, which we don't need to talk about because that goes down a whole nother rabbit hole. But like, football is for everyone in Europe. I can go to any public park here and find kids dribbling in the street, to find kids playing with the football at recess, to be able to like go train at any public park. Literally, like our stadium, that like I can get access and get on a field anytime I want. The fact is, when I am back in the US, I struggle to find grounds to train on as a professional athlete because I have to go pay my public park to rent out a field, even though no one's using it. Like I had to go beg my old high school janitor to like let me like get a key to like open up the goals. Like it is extremely hard to access football in general. And we can argue about pay to play, all these different aspects, but if we're going to truly believe in football for all, which is where the growth of football came from and why it is the most played and watched and entertained sport in the world, that is a foundation that we need to bring to a professional level.
the Champions League semifinals, it's a huge, huge set of games. Arsenal, Lyon, Barcelona, Chelsea. These are probably the four best teams in the world, I would say. This is probably the first time in a while that all four of the best teams. Normally, there's one Cinderella who finds a way to sneak their way in. Not this time. We're getting the best of the best. Arsenal don't have as much Champions League history as Lyon and Barcelona do. 2006, 2007 was their last. Kelly Smith, who we have seen become an analyst and who's been a great analyst for the last decade or so, was their captain and best player. That was back when they called it the UEFA Women's Cup. They didn't even call it the Champions League yet. I don't know why. I guess they were reluctant for money or whatever reasons, but still, that was a long time ago, and now they're back in the semis. But can they beat Lyon? It's a tough, tough ask. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a tough ask, especially when they squeaked by to get here. I mean, we talked about last time, explaining to those who don't know what aggregate scoring is, which was something I learned when I first came to Europe, I feel like. But Arsenal lost their first game 2-0 to Real Madrid and had a massive second half push in the second game. It was 0-0 at halftime and they ended up winning 3-0, which gave them the aggregate win to get to the semifinals. And of course, Real Madrid is no joke, don't get me wrong, but it took a massive push and it took Chloe Kelly. And it's insane to watch her story right now, especially, as it has been so public because of her own, willingness to put it out there. But to go from Manchester City to now being, I would argue, the reason that Arsenal is in the semifinals is absolutely fantastic on her. But it is going to put a lot on her, which unfortunately she suffered an injury during this international break. And so I'm hoping, obviously, it's not a long-term thing. I'm hoping it's a quick fix, but Arsenal is going to need to have someone like her step up to be able to get past Leon.
Yeah, and I think there's questions about her fitness, and apparently she might have picked up an injury during the international break, so that's going to be an interesting thing to monitor. Like you said, if she's not in that team, then I definitely don't like their chances against Lyon. The queens of this competition, they've won it the most times by a wide margin, and they're just too deep. They're too deep and too solid overall over two legs to lose to Arsenal. So I think, Arsenal has their work cut out for them. We'll be rooting for them because who doesn't love a great underdog? But Lyon are definitely the favorites there. The second matchup, Barcelona-Chelsea. Thinking back, Chelsea did the exact same thing Arsenal did, which is kind of crazy that it went the exact same way. Manchester City won the first leg 2-0, and it looked like Manchester City were finally, out of the 4 or 5 games that they were going to play against them, they were finally going to win one. And nope. Well, they did win the first leg, but they were finally going to get the better of them. And Chelsea came back with 3 goals in the second leg as well, and just it's incredible how when you know what you need and you just get exactly that. Just that third goal is all you need. And it's funny that they're back in this place again against an old foe, the same people who have stood in their way for the last few years. This is the third year in a row now that Chelsea and Barcelona are going to meet in the semifinals of the Champions League, and both times Barcelona have sent them packing. They also sent them packing in a final a few years ago. So this is truly the breaking point for Chelsea. We've said it year in and year out. All they care about really is this trophy. They have won everything else that has needed to be won. They want to legitimize themselves as one of the biggest clubs in Europe, but they can't get past Barcelona. How do you feel about this matchup?
Yeah, I think, as much as it has the story for Chelsea written all over it, and as much as this would be the documentary of the year if it happens, it's going to be tough. And I think we all knew that. Barcelona just absolutely has dominated this tournament. They know what they need to do. They prioritize, I'd argue that they sometimes even prioritize this over their league play and everything. Like they know how this tournament works. And when you have a team like Chelsea, of course, they're scrappy underdogs. Of course, they're going to look at film and come up with a tactical plan. But so is Barcelona. And I mean, I think the thing about Barcelona is they are so used to being in this position. They are used to being the top dogs. In every game they play against a low block of basically 10 players playing defense because they're going to have to break them down. In every game they play, this is something they face. This is a new aspect for Chelsea to maybe not go in knowing they're going to get as much possession, know these situations. And I think because of that, it does give Barcelona an edge. It's going to come down. Once again, I think it's going to be a low block from Chelsea because Barcelona is going to push them down. And their biggest hope is going to be set pieces or a transition goal from Beaver Jones or Lauren James or some kind of combination there. And I think if Chelsea has a chance, set pieces is going to be the name of the game to capitalize when they have the opportunity.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there, and that really is their only path to victory. If this was the final, and it's one game, it's a big difference. And then I would be not willing, but I would give them a puncher's chance for sure. But over 2 legs, it's just good luck beating this team over 2 legs because it's just like we've seen in the quarterfinals. You can win one game, but do you have enough to close out the second one? And I don't know if Chelsea has enough to close out the second game because this feels like the type where they might nick the first leg 1-0 and then you lose 2-0 in the second game. They're capable of doing that. So, yeah, we get an all England final or all London final Arsenal Chelsea? That would be incredible, but the most likely scenario seems like Barcelona Lyon, and surprisingly, Lyon, for all their dominance, has not met Barcelona. It's always been Wolfsburg or it's been Chelsea who Barcelona have had to go through. They have not actually played Lyon in many finals or semifinals. Lyon's had a small struggles. They've been clipped in the previous years. So I would honestly be intrigued to see if Lyon could do it against Barcelona if we get to that point. Of course, we still got to play the games, but so excited for this. This is going to be great. It's like best time of year, the most watched games of the year. It's not going to be much better than that.
No, absolutely. These are the games that you wake up early for if you're in the US, you have your morning cup of coffee, like you enjoy these moments. And I really hope that the US viewership really takes a turn to these games and really pays attention because this is going to be some fantastic football on display.
That is all that we have for you today on episode 78 of Give and Go. Thank you so, so much for tuning in and joining us. I am Rotas Rodera, joined by my co-host, Sam Carey. And of course, for all the latest and greatest from the world of women's soccer, go to www.girlsoccernetwork.com. Check us out on Instagram at Girls Soccer Network and on Blue Sky as well. And of course, if you want to get in touch with me or Sam, I am Rowan Detas25 on Instagram, and Sam is Sam Carey Angel on Instagram. Sam, any parting words before we go?
No, I think that it's a beautiful time to enjoy the beautiful game, and there's so many opportunities to do it. And as always, we want to hear your thoughts. We want to hear you agree. We want to hear you also empathize with outside backs and that you feel for us. We want to hear it for Carrie Bello. So let us know. Talk to us if you share these thoughts, if you don't. And we can't wait to hear from you guys and see you next time.